From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, I'm Rob Cairns. I'm the founder, CEO, and chief technologist at Stunning Digital Marketing. In this episode, I have David Wilder with me, and David and I are going to talk all about AI and why we shouldn't be scared of AI. Sit back, relax, enjoy. The SDM Show is brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, the digital marketing concierge that helps you put all your marketing pieces together. We are your marketing experts. We are also your WordPress security experts and know how to lock down a website and protect yourself from bad actors. So contact us at Stunning Digital Marketing today. Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here, and today I'm here with my guest, Mr. David Wilder. Hey David, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing well. I was just thinking as I hit the record button today, I got to start to, and I've said this before, I got to start to record all the outtakes, the stuff that never airs, because, you and I think we share so much alike. We could go on for hours and hours and hours, but that's not a bad thing. So that's okay too.
I agree.
So today we were going to jump into one of my favorite marketing topics, probably the hottest topic of 2025, and that was AI and why we need to embrace it and not be scared of it, right? We were talking about that last week. But first of all, tell me a bit about your background for the listener and how you ended up in this crazy mess.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, what an interesting journey it's been so far. And I appreciate you having me on the show. So thank you. I've been listening. You really help a lot of folks out there.
Thank you.
So yeah, absolutely. When I got out of the military, I had gotten into the oil business and largely into raising capital for drilling projects and that sort of thing. This is years ago. And, as my journey unfolded, I had gotten, more involved in generating revenue for the companies, started getting called in by different companies around the country to do this, implement this model for them, which also got me tied into the marketing departments and teams like that. I had been asked to come on board with a PR firm as a VP a few years ago, multiple years ago, and that really gave me a inside perspective of how oftentimes the real media is relegated to industry insiders and ultra rich and that sort of thing. So I started
Very much so.
Yeah, interesting and exclusionary. And so I started my firm a couple years ago with the primary intention of just giving everybody their voice. I mean, and I thought it was real important. I'll tell you, this last year with like we're going to talk about with the AI, it's a game changer. And I'm excited to be on here and talk about it with folks.
Yeah, it's hard. And I would say if I was looking in tech and in marketing, the number one story last year was AI, probably the last 2 years. And I don't think I'm blowing that out of proportion. So I'm going to kind of lead off with one thing. I was sourcing some computers for a client last week, and he's going to do a hardware change of his auto shop. And I said to him, and I almost never make this recommendation, I said to him, maybe you should be looking at some off-lease stuff or some renewed stuff. And he said, why? And I said, honestly, memory costs are going through the roof. And for those who don't know in the industry, one of the things AI has caused is everybody's buying the high-end server type memory out there. And the memory factories overseas are all taxed. So they're not making the typical stuff we throw in desktops and smartphones and MacBooks and Windows laptops and all of that. And the reason they're not is server memory sells at a higher price. And AI is driving this whole memory mess. And if I'm a car dealership, and I'll choose the analogy, I'd rather sell 50 Porsches than 50 ship boxes because I'm going to make more money on the 50 Porsches. Here's what's going on. So AI even is impacting the manufacturing of goods indirectly in the industry right now.
Right. I mean, you see, was it Nvidia's
Yeah.
market, or they're worth what? The valuation 5 trillion, was it 5 trillion? It was
Yeah,
insane, an
they're
insane
like
number.
number three or number four on the stock market behind Microsoft and Apple and Alphabet pretty well right now. Yeah, it's
It's
just crazy.
absolutely massive. Yeah, it's interesting. And along with the AI and the faster programs, and as we go through our various renditions, I think on ChatGPT, what we're in the 5 series now.
Yeah,
I think of BMWs because I had a BMW, it was 5 series, 7 series, that kind of thing. But the faster it is, the more power it consumes. And
yeah.
that's another upcoming issue that, good opportunity for investors, I guess, but challenge for the American people. Yeah.
And then Tad, and then we'll kind of jump even more in. It's gone mainstream, and I didn't
Yeah.
think going into 2025 AI was there mainstream yet. I really didn't. I mean, for people like you and myself, we use it every day, so it is mainstream. But for the average, and then I was sitting at a family dinner about 3 weeks before Christmas, and my partner's niece, Lizzie, looked at me and said, "Have you seen some of the new stuff that Yano Banana is putting out?" And those who don't know, that's Google's Photos stuff enhancement. And she was showing us some pictures at table. I had already seen a lot of it, but when it's hitting people like that, and she's a nurse, mainstream, then you know AI is at the forefront, even more so.
Some of that stuff is so advanced. I mean, this stuff is like you said. I mean, it is moving at lightning speed, and some of it. I mean, I'm not even caught up over here, and now we're two renditions down the road. I'm like, geez, yeah, it's a big thing.
Yeah. Should we be scared of AI, or do we need to embrace it and figure out how to work with it?
Yeah, that's such a good question. The thing that's I always think about is what guardrails do we have in place? If we know that we are that it's so powerful and moving so quickly, like what guardrails do we have set up to keep that? I have one of my clients is that's what he talks on and goes around to different countries and speaks to the governments about and such, and it's so powerful, and it's getting to the point that even we don't really understand some of it, so humans. And so I don't know. We'll see what happens. I saw Elon Musk came out. Did he say that Neuralink is going to be starting to do those chips in 26 this year as far as
Yep.
mass producing them and stuff? That's interesting. So I saw another one of the founders. I can't remember what company. He said that he's going to wait to have children until that Neuralink is more streamlined, and then he's going to have kids and plug them in. And I was like, that's weird.
Yeah,
So
I think it is. I think we have to do, and I was saying this to a colleague, we got to treat it as a high-powered tool. And it's funny when everything in society goes south, we all blame the tool instead of blaming the people. So I was sharing with you when we met a couple of weeks ago a story in Canada. They arrested a miner in Edmonton. I believe it was Edmonton, Alberta, somewhere. And what he was doing was he was making child pornography using AI. So, I mean, but what I would argue as an educator out there that AI is not the problem. The person is the problem. What are your thoughts on the tool versus the people?
100% agree with that. I mean, and that's the thing about everything, and I could, but back to your point of as far as the tool, I mean, I love my circular saw and my drill, and I'm not trying to plug those into my head. So but as far as you're saying, I mean, it really does come down to the people and the motivation. And so that's what makes me a little on edge, is knowing that the governments are racing for this, to have this for themselves, that higher power, or the highest powered model of this, and AI, there's an AI ASI and all of that. that's kind of scary. But on the flip side, I have seen some people that have amazing ideas, but they don't know how to write very well. And I've seen it used as, or artists using this to enhance some of their paintings or their pictures or create scenes. I mean, it's beautiful. So it really does come down to, the motivation behind it, I think.
No, I would agree. This podcast, all the show notes are generated by AI. I would lie if I said they weren't. They have been for a long time. I actually take the audios and I mean, beyond some minor cleanup, but it saves like hours of time, not even minutes of time. And that's just one example. Um, I was in the ER on New Year's Eve, and I was sharing with my partner just as we're killing time, and she was asking me some AI questions, and I was sitting there. She's an admin assistant, and I was sharing some stuff out of Nano Banana, just generating photos on the fly on my smartphone, and it just it's mind-boggling, to be honest with you, what's going on. Um, what do you tell your clients about AI? Like, what's the number one or number two things that they need to look for?
With my clients, the very first thing that we're all looking for, really, I think the first thing that we need to do, and what I do for the clients is just educate them.
Yep.
What's interesting is, and you don't stop and think about this, but once you do, it makes sense because we see that AI, especially in what you and I do, has really come in. It's a silent force. I mean, there's nobody on the news. They're talking about banana, but they're not talking about, 65% of the searches are decided before, by that client or that customer, without even clicking a single website. And so you don't hear that stuff. But so the first thing it is, is just relating this to them. So other people are on there searching chat GPT just like you are.
Yep.
And how often are you searching for an answer every day on Google AI overview or chat GPT or perplexity? So that makes them start to think. And then we look at their content and we look at their messaging and how it's structured to make sure that it is communicating with the AI and with the search engines to where now they're able to be seen on both platforms, both in their marketing and their website, but also when potential customers are doing searches online for them.
Yeah, and I would say, I think we were talking about this last week when we met, that we need to start thinking about AI when we're doing search. And I know when I want something, I go right to Gemini very quickly. I have a tab open. I just go there. I say, tell me three reasons to do this. Tell me five reasons to do that. I was even bored and showing the breakdown when I was in the yard the other day, and I took five ingredients in a kitchen and said, tell me what I can make from this and how to make it. And AI spit all that out for me very nicely. Um, you can take show notes from a podcast and say to AI, tell me, give me a post for X, give me a post for LinkedIn, give me a post for Facebook, and it will customize those accordingly. Things like that, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. I was listening to somebody the other day on a show, and things like that. That's funny to me. Actually, I'm going to try that because I've tried making things out of my house. I'm hungry. This is what I have.
Yeah.
Get me something, make it taste good. But it's interesting because, and I do the same thing. I have ChatGPT on speed dial now. The thing is, we're only scratching the very surface of the capabilities of these engines. This is not what scientists are doing. They have a 10,000 word prompt that they're putting in there, having it cross check each other, go through this database, check this, and let's take this answer and go over here and do this with it. And I'm, what's the latest score on the Broncos game or what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's
it's true.
stupid things I'm using it for. So it's a real, it's an interesting time because you have to be up to date and know, really how to take full advantage of these tools.
Yeah, it's true. Um, what are your clients using the tools for primarily?
Well, again, being in my industry, and what I'm doing, I don't, I know what I'm using the tools for, and that's to, when it comes to the clients, and that's really to get that client seen as the answer. So if somebody's looking for, I don't know, say they're looking for the who's the best defense attorney in Tucson, Arizona, and I want my client to come up on that search right there on top. Because especially with law and finance, what's really interesting, because those are two of my primary client bases, is that people are searching chat GPT or for these AI legal questions, and they want legal advice, and they want
Yeah.
financial advice. And that's an interesting place to be, because yes, it's probably right, but it might not be. And so, with the engines, because they hallucinate and they come up with just some interesting answers sometimes. But to know that we can also have an expert right behind there being recommended immediately, that's kind of the guardrail that I see. So I want to make my clients get in that spot. I'm not sure how the individual clients use it. I know with one of the law firms out in New York, they're using it to set up business operations, structures, the P&L, all of that. So I think we're using it in various ways. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they're growing. Like everybody assumes it's just for search. And a good example is you make a contract and you might feed it in AI and say, if you're not a good writer, refine my writing. Like there's this very simple. And now I can't remember with ChatGPT, but I know with Gemini, at the bottom of almost every search it puts, or every so often it will remind you and say you have to check the information. Yeah, because that's a catch-all disclaimer to say, hey, if something goes wrong, don't blame
Yes.
us, kind of deal.
Yeah, that's right. Now we're seeing a lot of you don't hear much about it, but a lot of lawsuits and things going on like that, because people weren't they were just putting it on there like it was, scripture or the word or what have you. But yeah, that's the most important part of that, is when you're using it, is you got to get some human eyes on that. You've got to double check. You've got to make sure it's right for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the other thing we got to do is, and I'm going to say this, and I know I listen to a podcast, the Mel Robbins podcast. We all know Mel; she's well known in the podcasting space, amazing lady. And at the bottom of every podcast, she says, "Now the legal language," and she says, this is not a substitute. And please remember, folks, AI is not a substitute for going to see your doctor, going to see your accountant, going to see your lawyer. Like I say that all the time. It can give you a guide to help start those conversations, but I don't think it takes away from the profession.
Think so either. But yeah, we always have to CYA, right?
Yeah, it's true. Do you see a consolidation coming in the AI business?
I think that there's gotta be. I mean, you remember back when the internet really started, the web really started getting big, because
Yeah.
we would have, I remember there was like Yahoo, there was
Mhm.
uh I mean, there's so many. There's Google. I'm trying to think of
Alta,
Firefox was that
Alta,
thing.
Alta Vista, Lycos, and all of those.
There
And
was
that's
just so
exactly what
many.
I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, and now it's Google. And so, I mean, there's still smaller ones, but Google's the big gorilla. And it's gotta, you'd think that it's gotta be the same thing. Or, as far as a consolidation, there has to be it soon. And but as far as our clients, we'll just make sure they're on every one of them, because there's only small differences between each platform, unless you're going into writing code or something like that. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of them operate, and they all operate the same way. So once you've got that structure down, and how to communicate with it, and get that information cited and seen, and all of that by the engines, it's pretty straightforward. But yeah, you'd think it's gotta consolidate soon.
Yeah. I kind of think from when I break it down, and I was kind of looking at it over the weekend, I kind of see it going three places. OpenAI/ChatGPT. And by the way, as a derivative Copilot by Microsoft, because that's what it feeds off of. Um, Google Gemini and Perplexity. and everything else is going to be powered out of one of the three. I kind of see that's the way it's going to go, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I don't think Google has missed the mark on this one, to be honest with you, at all for King.
I don't think they missed the mark at all. Right now, we're seeing that the AI overviews are in. I mean, last time I checked, it was in 2 million or 2 billion homes or 2 billion,
Yep.
computers, and that's only growing. And I think Chat GPT is at what 720 million, and Google's already the AI overview over 2 billion. And I think that the plan is by the end of this year, be it 3.5, 4 billion. So no, they haven't missed the mark at all.
Now, one of the things I think people wanting to be seen on the internet need to do, especially in business. We all know, and you've done SEO work, I've done a lot of SEO work over the years. We all know the value of Google business profiles, right? The of get from a ranking. And my argument now to every business I talk to is, you have a Bing Places profile? And they're like, why? And I keep saying, because of Microsoft's tie-in to Copilot, which is a tie-in to OpenAI, which is tie-in the tie-in. And in the corporate world, Edge is still the primary browser on every corporate desktop because it's installed with Windows. Why not is my better question. And the little dirty little secret is you can set up a Bing profile and say, by the way, sync it every couple of days with your Google business profile, and you don't even have to do the work. So what? Why wouldn't you? Is my question.
That's interesting that you say that because that's 100% right. All of those little things like that, I mean, they're easy to set up and they offer credibility and validation to all of the AI models. And
Mhm.
so, other things that's the Google profile or the business, but there's also, just the Google Knowledge Panel off to the right. A lot of
Yeah.
times those are free. And then once you start getting some reviews, the Google reviews added in there, and you connect your platform, your social medias and that kind of thing. And it really just takes your credibility score, as it were, up, and you're more visible, you're more trusted, your entities checks out, that kind of thing. Here's another tip for if it makes sense for the specific businesses, start a YouTube. Get on YouTube because YouTube is 25% of Google's revenue. I promise you, it gets indexed and looked at. So, and it's free. It's easy to do. Get somebody on your team to start an educational channel. Doesn't have to be big. Just start one. Yeah.
Yeah, it matters for search, and we all know people wanting to do how-tos. Where do we go? To a YouTube search box pretty quick, or to Google and say, "Give me a YouTube video that does A, B, and C." So yeah,
Right.
no question on that one. Video matters more and more. Um, what do you think about the whole AI and the job loss discussion? I hate to go there, but
I
I
know. I
kind of
hate to too. I hate to even think about it, honestly. I think that I mean we were talking recently, you and I, about the bringing the jobs back to the North America, and I know that that's a lot of the discussion that's been happening, and
Mhm.
or for the manufacturing. The challenge is, yes, they may bring that back. I know first off, it may be, it's time consuming to build a manufacturing facility. It takes a long time. But also, we see some of these major companies, enterprise level companies, that are automating everything. And so even though we're bringing these jobs back, so to speak, or the manufacturing back, does that mean it lands in human hands? I don't know. And so, but we're gonna, potentially see a ton of layoffs and correction. And what's interesting to me too is that it's going to be a lot of it looks like it's going to be in white collar jobs, which were typically the ones that were most secure and the foundational type of positions, finance and law and medical and that kind of thing. That's kind of scary to me.
No, I agree with you. Now, the other thing I would say is it's just where the jobs go and where they go long term. So I'll give you an example. Early in my career, I started off as a computer programmer. and I was programming business systems in a junior position. This is years ago. And if AI is doing all that basic coding, where do junior people get a chance to hone their skills that make them good senior people down the road? That's my question. And then do we hurt ourselves in the long run because we don't have good people down the road? And if we don't have good people at the bottom, how do we get them up here? That's
Right.
my concern at this point.
Right. And that's what programming. And I just heard one of my clients talking about, and he's in the finance space out in Wall Street, and he said the same kind of something very similar when it comes to the junior analyst getting out of college and all of
Yeah.
that. And he says if they take out, a third, maybe even a half of all of those positions, I'm like, wait, what about all the people that are graduating right now? Or, and that's
Yep. Yep.
interesting. I get that there's a place for efficiency. You and I both are business owners, and so I get that, being efficient, making better choices when it comes to that. But at what point is it, enough? Like if it starts having a direct impact on the people, their ability to take care of their families and that sort of thing. I mean, there's got to be some sort of line drawn in the sand, you'd think.
Yeah. And the other problem we have, and I don't want to turn this show political, but I don't think no, I don't,
I know.
because it tends to go that way. But the other problem we have is the lawmakers have no clue. I mean, they're in the US, there's very few lawmakers or their staffs. There's a couple that are really savvy on the tech side, but very few aren't. We had the same problem in Canada. The laws are mile behind. Everything from copyright laws to work laws to you name it, they're miles behind. And they need to catch up, I hate to say it, quicker than ever before, to be honest with you.
And when have we ever seen that happen? And them catching up. I mean, they're catching up takes 2-3 years when this technology is doubling every 3 to 4 months. And
Not
so,
even not even
if,
that, David, anymore. Like
yeah,
it's like every 3 or 4 weeks. I hate to say it. Like I'm not trying to discredit that, but when I started in tech, things changed every year or 2 years. And
right.
then I saw things changing every year. Then it was every 6 months. And now it's like weekly and daily. It's just astronomical at this point.
Billions and billions and billions at its development. I mean,
Right.
I don't know. I don't want to take it political either, but you and I grew up like in a different age and a
Yeah, we
different
did.
time, and this was not. I couldn't ever imagine being in this position. And again, trying to take this thing sideways. I wasn't expected to do that, but it's the reality, and we're just kind of probably saying out loud what 10 million people or 100 million people are thinking.
Yeah.
And so it's a real conversation.
Yeah, and the thing is, people are using AI in spots they don't realize it. For example, jump on Amazon. You can do an AI search on Amazon for types of products you're looking for. You jump on a chatbot. That's all AI driven. You jump on any of these big companies in the telecom industry and want help with your services or your bill. That's all AI driven. So the consumer that looks at me and says, I don't use AI, and I'm like, you mean you don't understand where you're using AI, not that you're using AI.
That's so true. I'm so glad you said that because it made me think while you're saying that.
Yeah.
Just like with these business owners, I see this all the time. And I was the same way. And I'm in the industry and I was the same way because it wasn't until I went to and got the certification that I did for the AI for using it in the press. But I didn't realize, how much I was on AI. But what's
Yeah.
happening is, in 2025, just last year, just in that one year, the amount of searches for that on AI platforms like ChatGPT and Gemini and such, 527% increase. And And then half of those, I was saying 2 billion AI overviews on computers. Half of those, those people made buying decisions just from what AI said. That's right on the top of the screen. And because what's interesting, here's another aspect of it that I've been thinking about is the emotional connection that people are having with it.
Boom. Yeah.
And I mean, they trust that answer more than any marketing, more than any ad, more than any salesperson. They trust that AI, and they don't feel like they've gotten burned by it. That it's some people they name their chat GPTs. They
Wow.
have conversations with them. They seek advice. It's turned into their really like a counselor and a confidant. It's interesting.
I'm glad you went there because I've heard more and more cases as somebody who believes in taking care of his head and the whole mental health side of life. More and more people are turning to AI instead of turning to a therapist. And I would say, personally, I think that's a bad idea. I think it's okay for a start, but it doesn't replace a trained professional. It comes back to what you and I said earlier. You still got to have the trained professionals in your business, in your life in place.
Because these models, and one thing people have got to understand, I had a friend, I was just talking to this last night because they had done some sort of personal search on their model, and it comes back, no, everything's fine. You feel this way, but this is really what's happening. But these models are made to please humans. And
Yeah.
so no matter, I said, let me show you this. And I said, this crazy prompt. I like going out and digging up worms and eating worms. Even though my neighbors laugh at me, I can't stop eating worms. And what's wrong with me? Well, and then the answer is, well, first off, nothing's wrong with you. And
Yeah.
people are okay, so we just got to be careful, and being careful comes through education, and I think that's the layer that people aren't getting, and they really need to. So that's the first stop for us with our clients is just letting them know what's going on, why we're doing things the way that we are, and having them start to look at things the same way. So
Yeah.
it's an important thing. Yeah.
And then there's the whole privacy side of this mess. And I think is going to go there. So I'll give you an example. I did an experiment, and I shared this with you a couple of weeks ago, a couple months ago. I took my partner's name, and right in front of her, I hand on it, and I threw it into Gemini. Now, he works for a major insurance broker as an admin. He is not heavily on social media like you and I are. We are there because of business or professional reasons. She's not. He uses a little bit of Instagram, a little bit of Facebook, not a little bit of Instagram, a lot of Instagram, but anyway, don't kill me just at the end of the day. But the point I'm making is I threw her name in there. And what I'll also tell you is I'm working on a book series. The book's series dedicated after her. My podcast partially is dedicated after her. I've talked about her on the podcast. AI pulled all that stuff and then said, here you go, the
Yeah.
references. And that's what I'm saying. And I did this in front of her as an experiment. So read this. And she's like, oh my God, Rob. And I'm like, yeah, that's the power of AI. But it also brings is the privacy. If something gets out there, we're all worried about privacy laws and privacy this and
Right.
privacy that. AI can be one of the biggest impacts to privacy if we don't regulate it really quick, too, in my opinion.
I mean, and that's putting it lightly, I think, because
Yeah.
they are actually, these data centers and these data banks
Yeah.
they know every single thing there is that you could possibly know about us. And I mean, that's scary too. And you see these data banks going up and these data centers, massive
Yeah. Yeah.
buildings. And what is that one that they're just broke ground down in Texas? What is Trump calling that? The Stargate? Is that what he
Yeah, I
said?
forget
I
what
mean,
he's calling it, but it's going to be huge. And
huge.
it
Yeah.
used to be your big data centers were in things like Oracle. Oracle's a big data center provider. Um, Hence why they're involved in the TikTok deal, whether you like it or not. You've got people like Amazon and AWS. And the problem we got with these massive data centers, frankly, is what happens when one goes down. In November and December, we had down issues from AWS, Microsoft, every
Yeah.
big provider. And that's just a fact of life. And I hate to say it, every time something like this happens, public's reaction is, okay, who got hacked? And it's not always a hack. It's sometimes the AWS issue was a DNS setting on the East Coast, if you remember. So it happens. The point is, we also got to start to make contingencies with these data centers too, to be fair.
And like you said, something that's real interesting too is on the hacking side. So how many times now have we seen? I don't remember the latest one, but I mean, 23andMe, the DNA company, they got
Yep.
hacked. Everybody's
They got
DNA is gone or copied. That we see, these other, and this is hundreds of millions of people, their socials, their names, their addresses, their credit. I mean, all of it. And I mean, so that's that part. But then what about potentially bad actors? I mean, if you can hack into, I mean, there's so many entry points on something like that, on these data centers. It's the size of a football field, or
Yep.
maybe probably bigger than that, probably 5 football fields. I don't know, but
Yep.
yeah, the not only to go back to what you're saying, not only is the privacy not there, um, or these standards that we used to just hold as a basic freedom
Mhm.
or expectation. And that is just out the window now. It's not only not there, they're selling your data, they're selling your
Yeah.
information. They
Yeah.
know you like grandma's cookies, and they're going to show you every cookie store on the way from here to the coffee shop, and then
Grocery.
set alerts and hey, you just passed the cookie store. And I mean, it's nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah. As part of what I do in my agency, I provide security services for WordPress websites. And what we're seeing is an increase in the not an increase, shortening the time from the vulnerability being discovered to the vulnerability hitting in a while. So if you look at in 2024, if you look at all the WordPress security reports, I think I'm just summarizing, so this is an exact number, so don't shoot me at the end. I think we're up 50% on the number of vulnerabilities last year. And it used to be, again, remember we are talking about how the progression has gotten shorter and shorter. It used to be you could update your WordPress website once a week. I don't think that's good enough anymore. And I tell my clients that, and they're like, I don't have time to do that. And I say, well, that's why you got to pay somebody to do it, because you don't have the time, but it needs to be done because the progression's getting shorter, and it's causing havoc. Because if you think we're just using AI, so are the nefarious people. And point and check, have you gotten a phishing scheme lately in your email? It used to be the language was really bad. The language has gotten very good, and I'll tell you why, because they're running it through AI. So think about that.
It's the you know what It's so crazy that you say that because was it in November? And I'm ultra cautious, very cautious. I've seen too many
Yeah.
people get
Yeah.
hacked and viruses and such. And I got caught into that on a Venmo scheme
Yeah.
that was automated from Venmo. I thought, I mean, and it's not even a human. It was all automated. They called me, I answered. Here's the automated voice. Hey, somebody's trying to hack you. Say,
Yeah.
did you do this? Yes or no? I say no. Boom, here we're sending you a code. They send me the code. I put it in. Now I mean, it is advanced. So you always got to be careful. That's crazy though that you're saying that. I mean, how often you remember when you first started doing it, or years ago when
Yeah.
you're needed to do that the security update on those websites? How often were you doing them? If you remember when you started?
Weekly. And now with my
Oh,
clients, I do them 3 times a week. I don't even
oh
play.
so 150 times a year just to
Yep.
stay on top of things.
Just on top of things. And I mean, the key in that is having a good backup. And by the way, I've got e-commerce sites I do twice a day. I have an automated process, but I have them because
Wow.
even more so. And we're just seeing more and more and more, and it's getting ridiculous out there. Um, kind of thinking ahead. So you provide AI service to your clients.
Right.
What kinds of services are you providing? And if somebody wants to come to you for help, what can you help them with?
That's a great question. So what I do is I'm a public relations and media strategy company, and so I have direct ties in with the media houses,
Yep.
publishers, television, podcasts, that sort of thing. And so up until recently, I mean that's massive exposure and credibility. So if a brand wanted to expand or draw attention, or crisis management, sometimes not as
Oh,
often
yeah.
as
Oh,
that sort of
yes.
thing. What we're doing now though is I know that after I got that certification for the company, it's AEO, so answer engine optimization. I know a lot of people are familiar with the SEO. You're an expert in that, and so this is on the AI side, and so now I use those for grounding. I mean, still get the exposure of being in, I don't know, Forbes or Bloomberg or what have you, but I want that URL. And I want that, what I'm saying? I want that because now I can tie that into the engines, and that sets authority. So now when Google is, there are 417 billion searches every month on just Google. And if half of those are being answered by AI, that's 208 billion a month. So it's a very real place that we've got to be. And so that's where I put my clients. Another thing is, I'm glad you asked that, because back to how I was saying, if somebody is in Tucson, who's the best defense attorney in Tucson, Arizona? There's going to be one person on there. If they ask for a list, maybe there's, a list, a short list. What about all the rest of the people? If you're not on that list, you're invisible. I mean, people are getting that answer from AI. They're not running through all the searches and click, through a bunch of websites anymore to find a good lawyer. They're going to choose this one because they trust AI. So that's what I'm really doing, is positioning for my clients to be in that spot and be the answer or the recommendation that AI is given to the person typing in the search.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Do you have a website or
Yes.
social contact that people can reach out to for, David?
Yeah, we have trustpointexposure.com, and there's no E on the exposure, but trustpointexposure.com. And we're everywhere else, on all the socials. LinkedIn is very heavy, of course, and we have a lot of videos and a lot of education out there as well, just to help people, just to start to get a solid understanding of what's going on in the industry for themselves. And we're happy to help any way we can. So they reach out to me or my team. They have a bunch of guys and gals that are really out there for their best interest, and I think that's why the clients because I learned a long time ago, we all push forward together. And yes, we're in business. At the end of the day, my business is going to be good as long as I'm helping people and doing the right thing. And I know you take the same long-term
I
approach,
do.
and that's why people want to do business. I'm not in it just for the money. I want to make sure that the people are taken care of, they're doing good for their families, and they're getting the right advice. That's important.
I really do. Thanks for joining me. I hope people reach out, and we got to keep educating people. I think that's so key in what you do and what I do. And you're in PR, I'm in marketing, and I always say to people, PR and marketing cross all the time. And really,
Yes.
PR is marketing. I don't care what anybody says, and that's something to take on. So I thank you so much for your time, David, and Happy New Year and all the best to you and your family. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Rob. I appreciate being on your show. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and look for big things this year, my man. We'll talk
We will.
soon.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. This podcast has been brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, your digital marketing concierge to help the business owner put all his pieces together, whether it's email marketing, WordPress security, WordPress design and development, PPC, and more. Text Stunning Digital Marketing for all your digital marketing needs today. I want to thank David for joining this edition of the SDM show. Just a quick note, David will be joining the show on a monthly basis to talk about nothing but AI. So this is a new co-host, and I really hope you enjoy what David brings to the table. Thanks again, David. Much love. The SDM show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much every day. My mother, Ann Cairns, who's still doing really well and is an inspiration. And of course, Tiz Maroney. And Tiz, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for all the inspiration you give me every day.